The alien child had always been told one thing by her people. Humans were beasts. They were destroyers. Monsters who came from the stars and left only fire behind. The elders told stories of villages burned, skies turned black, and families who never returned whenever the word human was spoken. Mothers pulled their children close. Fathers lowered their eyes. And even the bravest warriors stayed silent. The little girl's name was Lyra. She was small. Her skin a pale blue with faint silver lines that glowed when she was afraid. Her wide violet eyes often looked to the stars with curiosity, but also with fear. She had never seen a human before, only heard of them in the fearful whispers of her people. One day, a sound echoed across the valley. It was deep, heavy, like thunder rolling in the mountains. The ground shook beneath Lyra's feet. She clutched her mother's hand, staring at the sky. A strange ship was descending, silver metal shining against the clouds. The villagers gasped and shouted, "A human ship, hide the children. Close." The gates, Lyra's mother pulled her close, whispering, "Do not look. Do not move. If a human sees you, they will take you away." Lyra trembled. Her small body pressed against her mother's robe, but her curiosity was stronger than her fear. She tilted her head, just enough to peek through the cracks of the wooden walls. The ship landed outside. The colony, its legs crushed the grass beneath, steam hissing from its engines. The doors opened with a loud hiss, and there he was, human. Lyra's heart raced. She expected a beast with claws and teeth, but what she saw made her freeze. The human was tall, yes, broad-shouldered, with strange pale skin and hair like fire, but his eyes did not glow with hunger or rage. They looked calm, thoughtful, as if he was simply curious. The villagers shouted angrily, throwing stones and shouting insults. "Leave, beast, we do not want your kind here." But the human did not attack. He raised his hand slowly, showing he carried no weapon. He stepped forward, calm and steady. Lyra could not understand if humans were monsters. Why was he not tearing the gates apart? Why was he not roaring or burning everything down? Her mother dragged her back into the shadows, whispering, "Do not be fooled. It is a trick. He waits for us to trust him, then he will strike." But Lyra's small heart burned with questions. She wanted to see more, to know more. That night, while the others slept, she crept from her home and climbed to the edge of the wall. From there, she could see the human. He had made a small fire outside the colony. He sat alone, eating something from a pack. Lyra stared, expecting him to bare his teeth, to howl like a beast. But he simply sat quietly, chewing slowly, staring at the stars. Hours passed, the child's eyes grew heavy, but she could not look away. The human did not seem like the monster she had imagined. There was no fire in his eyes, no dripping fangs. He looked almost lonely. The next morning, the elders gathered. They argued loudly. If we attack now, he may call more beasts. If we let him stay, he may strike when we sleep. Some wanted him gone. Some wanted to kill him, but no one dared move against him. Yet, they were afraid of what he might do. Lyra slipped away from the crowd. Her little feet carried her closer to the human than she had ever been before. She hid behind the rocks, her eyes wide with fear. Every muscle in her body told her to run, but her heart told her to stay. Then it happened. A small stone slipped from under her foot and tumbled down the slope. The sound echoed. The human's head turned sharply. His eyes locked on hers. Lyra froze, her breath caught in her throat. She waited for the beast to roar, to leap at her, to tear her apart. But instead, the human smiled. It was small, soft, almost gentle. His lips curved upward, his eyes warmed. It was not the smile of a beast. It was the smile of someone kind. Lyra's heart pounded louder than the thunder of his ship. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. She wanted to scream, but no sound came. She just stared at him, and he stared at her. In that moment, something inside her began to break. It was not her fear. It was the walls of lies she had been told for the first time in her short life. Lyra wondered, what if the stories were wrong? Lyra could not sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the human smile. It was not sharp. It was not cruel. It was gentle, soft, and confusing. Her people had always told her that humans were beasts, but beasts did not smile. Like that, beasts did not look kind. The next morning, the colony was restless. The elders gathered again, their voices filled with fear and anger. They wanted the human gone. They shouted, "We must send him away before it is too late." Some argued, "No. If we push him, he will call others and we will all die." Fear spread like fire. Lyra sat near the wall, listening. Her mother told her to stay inside, but her heart would not obey. She wanted to see the human again. She wanted to know if his smile had been real or just another trick. The human did not leave. Instead, he began to move around the colony. He did not enter, but he stayed close, fixing things with strange tools from his pack, broken fences, cracked pipes. Even the water pump that had been useless for weeks, he worked quietly. Patiently, the villagers watched with suspicion. "He wants us to trust him," one whispered. "He waits for the right moment to strike," but no strike came, day after day. The human kept working, his hands steady, his face calm. Lyra grew more curious. She followed him secretly, hiding behind rocks, bushes, and shadows. Each time she peeked, she expected to see him bare his teeth or set a fire. But instead, he tightened bolts, checked wires, and wiped sweat from his forehead. He looked more like a worker than a beast. One afternoon, Lyra crept closer than ever before. The human was repairing the colony's broken beacon. His hands moved quickly, sparks flying. Lyra leaned too far forward, and a branch snapped beneath her foot. The sound was small, but in the silence, it was loud enough. The human stopped, his head turned slowly. His eyes locked on her hiding place. Lyra's body froze, her breath caught. Her heart beat so hard, she thought it might break her chest. For a long moment, neither moved. The wind blew softly, carrying dust across the field. Lyra's hands shook. She wanted to run, but her legs felt heavy as stone. Then the human did something unexpected. He lowered his tool, raised his hands slowly, and waved. A wave, not a claw, not a weapon, just a simple human wave. Lyra blinked. Her people never told her about this. Why would a beast greet her like a friend? Her mouth opened, but no words came. Instead, she stumbled back, then ran. She ran until her legs ached, until she was safe behind the colony walls again. That night, she lay awake again, replaying the moment in her mind. His eyes had not been cruel. His hand had not been threatening. He could have chased her, but he did not. He only waved. The next day, Lyra's mother noticed her distraction. "Stay away from the beast, child." She warned, "He is dangerous. He hides his true nature." Lyra nodded, but deep inside, she was not sure anymore. When the sun set, she slipped away again. Her little feet carried her to the edge of the colony. The human was there, sitting near his fire. He ate quietly, his face glowing in the light. Lyra watched him from a distance. She thought of the stories she had heard: humans killing, burning, destroying. But this one did not look like a killer. He looked lonely. For many nights, this became her secret. She would sneak out, hide, and watch him. Sometimes he worked. Sometimes he sat by the fire. Sometimes he looked at the stars for hours, as if searching for something. One night, she whispered to herself, "If he is a beast, why does he look so sad?" As if hearing her thought, the human turned his head. His eyes met hers again. This time, she did not run. She stayed, trembling, but rooted in place. His lips curved into the same gentle smile. He raised his hand once more in greeting. Slowly, with fear burning in her chest, Lyra raised her small hand too. Her fingers shook. But she lifted it high enough for him to see. The human's smile grew wider, warm, almost like sunlight breaking through clouds. Lyra's heart pounded. She quickly pulled her hand back, turned and ran into the night. But as she ran, she was not afraid. She was confused. She was curious. She was wondering if this human was truly a beast. Why did it feel like he was trying to be her friend? Lyra's secret meetings with the human grew more frequent. She no longer ran at the first sight of him. Instead, she would watch from behind rocks or trees. Sometimes she waved, and sometimes he waved back. Each time, her heart filled with confusion. Why would a beast act so gentle? But fate had its own way of answering her questions. One evening, after a long day of smoky air from the old factory outside the colony, Lyra began to cough. At first it was small, a dry cough that her mother brushed off. But by night, her chest hurt, her skin dimmed, and her silver lines flickered weakly. Her mother panicked, carrying her to the elders. The healers tried their herbs and powders, but nothing worked. The child has breathed too much of the poison smoke. One elder said grimly, her body cannot fight it. She may not last the night. Lyra's mother wept quietly, cradling her daughter's small frame. The colony watched with sadness, but also with cold acceptance. For them, sickness was common. Many children had been lost before, none expected help, but someone else was watching. The human, sitting by his fire, noticed the unrest. He saw the crying mother, the weak child, and the desperate healers. He stood slowly, walked toward the gates, and raised his voice. "I can help," he said. His words were strange, but his meaning was clear. The villagers gasped. Some shouted, "Lies! He only wants to trick us. He will poison her more." Others raised their spears. "Stay back, beast." But the mother clutched Lyra tighter. Her daughter's body shivered, her breaths shallow. And deep in her heart, she felt a thin string of hope, a desperate hope. The human reached into his pack and pulled out a small container. Inside were strange, glowing capsules. He knelt slowly, keeping his movements calm. His eyes were soft, almost pleading. He held out the medicine toward the mother. The crowd shouted in protest. "Do not take it. It will kill her." The elders argued, "This is how the beasts deceive. They offer gifts before the slaughter." But Lyra coughed again, her chest rattling like broken glass. The mother looked at her child's dim eyes, then at the human's steady hands. In that moment, she made a choice. She reached out, trembling, and took the capsule. Her people gasped in horror, but she ignored them, whispering, "Forgive me, elders, but I cannot let my child die." She carefully placed the strange medicine against Lyra's lips. At first, the girl resisted, weak and afraid, but her mother begged softly, "Please, my little star, swallow it." Lyra obeyed. Swallowing with difficulty, the taste was sharp, unlike anything she had known. The human's eyes never left hers, steady and calm, as if willing her to survive. Minutes passed. The villagers stood tense, waiting for her to collapse, waiting for proof that the human had brought only death. But something else happened. Lyra's breathing slowed. The pain in her chest eased. The silver glow on her skin steadied. Her cough softened, her eyes opened wider, brighter than before. The crowd fell silent. The mother gasped, tears streaming down her face. "She is healing," she whispered, clutching her daughter's hand. Lyra blinked slowly, looking from her mother to the human. Her small voice croaked, "Mother?" "It does not hurt anymore," the human exhaled. A sound of relief. He lowered his hand, packed away his tools, and stepped back. He asked for nothing, not even thanks. He simply returned to his fire. leaving behind a stunned colony, the elders. Whispered angrily, "This is dangerous." Now they will believe him. Others look shaken, but the child lives. How can we deny that? Lyra sat up weakly, her eyes never leaving the human in her small heart. The fear that had always lived there began to crack. She had expected poison. She had expected death. But instead, he had given her life, that night, as the colony argued. Lyra slipped from her bed. She walked slowly, her steps unsteady but determined. She followed the faint glow of the fire outside the walls. The human looked up as she approached, his expression calm, waiting. Lyra stood there in silence, her little hands clenched. Finally, she whispered, "Why? Why would a beast give me life?" The human tilted his head. He did not answer with words she could understand. Instead, he placed his hand on his chest and spoke one simple word. "Friend." Lyra's breath caught. Her eyes widened. The word echoed in her mind. It was not a threat, not a trick, but a promise. She whispered the word back, clumsy but clear, "Friend." For the first time in her life, Lyra felt something she had never felt toward a human before. Not fear, not hatred, but hope. Days passed after the night the human saved Lyra's life. The colony was divided. Some still whispered that he was a trickster, a beast waiting for the right moment to strike, but others could not forget what they had seen with their own eyes. The child who was dying now ran again, laughing softly at her mother's side. Lyra herself no longer hid her feelings. She waved openly when she saw him. She even dared to walk close when he worked on broken machines. Each time, the human only nodded with a small smile. He never raised a hand in anger. He never demanded anything in return, but the test of trust was about to come. One evening, the sky turned red. Dark ships swooped down from the mountains. They were not human ships. They belonged to raiders. Cruel scavengers who struck weak colonies to steal food, fuel, and children. The alarms rang through the colony. Elders shouted, "Hide the young. Bar the gates." Warriors grabbed their spears, but their weapons were old and weak. The villagers trembled. They had no strength to resist. Lyra clung to her mother, fear flashing in her violet eyes. She had heard the raiders' name before. They were worse than any story of humans. They took everything and left ashes behind. The raiders landed outside the walls. Their leader stepped forward. His armor was dark, his face cruel. He shouted, "Give us your stores, give us your young, and we will spare your lives." The colony fell silent. Fear gripped them. None dared speak, none dared fight. And then, from the shadows of the fire, the human stood. He walked calmly toward the gates, his tall figure casting a long shadow in the dust. The villagers gasped, "He will abandon us now. He will run back to his ship." This is the moment the beast reveals himself, but he did not run. He stepped through the gates and faced the raiders alone. Lyra pressed against the wall, her heart pounding. She whispered, "Please, do not go." But the human kept walking, his eyes locked on the raider leader, his hands clenched into fists. The raiders laughed when they saw him. "A single beast stands in our way," one sneered. "We will crush him first." The leader drew his blade and lunged. The human moved with speed the villagers had never seen. He dodged, grabbed the raider's arm, and threw him to the ground. Dust exploded around them. The raiders roared and charged, but the human fought with fire in his spirit. His fists struck like hammers, his movements sharp and sure. He used no blade, no gun, only his strength and courage. One by one, raiders fell. Groaning in the dirt, the villagers watched in stunned silence. They had always believed humans were destroyers. Yet, here one stood, defending them with his own body. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She had never seen such courage. She whispered again and again, "He is not a beast. he is not a beast. The raider leader staggered up, furious. He raised his weapon high and charged at Lyra's mother. The villagers screamed. But before the blade could fall, the human was there. He shielded her with his own body. The blade cut deep across his arm. Blood spilling, he did not stop. He turned with a roar, his eyes blazing with determination. With one final strike, he knocked the leader down and sent him crawling back. Toward his ship, the other raiders, beaten and humiliated, dragged their wounded and fled into the night. The battlefield was silent. The only sound was the heavy breathing of the human, his arm bleeding, his body trembling from the fight. The villagers slowly stepped out, their eyes wide, their mouths open in disbelief. The elders whispered, "He could have left us, but he fought. He could have betrayed us, but he protected us." Lyra broke free from her mother's grasp and ran to him. She grabbed his hand, ignoring the blood. "You saved us," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You saved us all." The human looked down at her, his face pale with pain, yet he smiled again, soft and gentle. He knelt to meet her eyes and said one word. Safe tears streamed down Lyra's cheeks. She turned to her people and shouted, "He is not a beast. He is our protector." The colony was silent. The elders lowered their heads. The warriors dropped their spears for the first time. They could not deny the truth that night. As the fires burned low and the raiders were long gone, Lyra sat beside the human. Wrapping a cloth around his wounded arm, he winced but stayed still. She whispered softly, "I was told humans only bring death, but you brought us life." The human only smiled faintly, closing his eyes, his strength fading. Yet even in his pain, his presence brought a strange comfort. Lyra looked up at the stars, her small voice filled with wonder. Maybe humans are not beasts after all. Maybe they are something greater. The colony was never the same after the raid. Everyone had seen it with their own eyes. The human had fought for them, bled for them, and saved them from certain death. Yet whispers still moved in the shadows. Some villagers said, "He only did it to earn our trust. One day he will betray us." Others argued, "No, he has proven himself. We would be dead without him." But Lyra no longer cared about the whispers. For her, the truth was clear. The human was no beast. He was her protector, her friend. She began to spend her days near him. At first, she stayed quiet, sitting on a rock while he worked on broken machines or prepared food. He never pushed her away, never scolded her. Instead, he sometimes offered her small things, a piece of dried fruit from his pack, or a tool to hold while he worked. Slowly, Lyra began to speak. Her words were soft at first, but curiosity burned inside her. She asked simple questions. "Why did you save us? Why do you help us?" The human did not always understand her language, but somehow he answered. His voice calm, his words few, but she could feel the meaning because it was right. He said one evening, pointing to his heart. Those words stayed in her mind. No elder had ever spoken that way about humans. No story had ever described them as beings who cared about right or wrong. Yet here he was, proving it with his every action. Lyra's trust grew. She began to laugh around him, to ask about the strange things he carried. He showed her small items. From his pack a glowing light, a tool that hummed a tiny picture of a world she had never seen. Earth. He tapped his chest and said the word proudly. Earth. Lyra repeated it. Clumsy, but curious. Earth. The human's smile widened, and for a moment, she felt closer to him than to anyone else in the colony. But not everyone welcomed this bond. The elders grew uneasy. They saw Lyra sitting with the human, saw her smile, saw her laughter, and it filled them with fear. One night, they called her mother to the council. The child grows too close to the beast, they warned. If she continues, The colony will forget the danger. He has already broken our walls of fear. Soon he will break our hearts too." Her mother wept. Torn between fear and gratitude, she remembered how he had saved her daughter. But she also feared the voices of the council. That night, she took Lyra's hands and said, "My little star, you must stay away from him. Please, he is dangerous. Even if he does not look it, promise me you will listen." Lyra's chest tightened. She wanted to obey her mother, but she could not forget the smile, the kindness, the fight. She could not pretend he was a beast anymore. "Mother," she whispered, "if he was dangerous, why would he save me? Why would he save us all?" Her mother had no answer, only silence. The next day, Lyra went to see him again. She could not stay away. She found him repairing the broken water pipes, his hands dirty with grease. She sat nearby, hugging her knees. Watching quietly, after a while, she asked, "Do humans have children?" The question surprised him. He looked at her, blinked, then nodded. He pulled a small object from his pack. It was a picture, faded and worn, showing two small figures smiling beside him. He pointed and said softly, "My children." Lyra's eyes widened. She leaned closer, staring at the picture. They were small like her, but human. Their eyes bright, their smiles wide. She touched the edge of the picture gently. "They look happy," she whispered. The human nodded, his face softened. But his eyes grew heavy with something she did not understand. A sadness, a longing. Lyra looked at him, her voice trembling. "Do you miss them?" The human's eyes glistened. He nodded again, slowly, pressing the picture to his chest. Then he looked at her and forced a small smile. Lyra's heart ached. She realized he was not only strong, not only kind, he was also lonely. From that day, her bond with him grew deeper. She no longer saw him as only a protector. He was someone who carried pain, someone who had lost, just like her people had lost. She wanted to make him smile again, but danger was brewing inside the colony. The elders whispered more loudly now. "The child is under his spell. Soon others will follow her, and then we will be lost," one elder hissed. "We must drive him away before it is too late." Lyra overheard these words one night as she hid near the council fire. Fear struck her heart. They were planning something. She wanted to warn him, but she did not know how. That night, as the stars glowed above, Lyra sat beside the human. She looked at his tired face, his wounded arm still healing, and she whispered, "They do not trust you. They want you gone." The human did not speak. He only looked at her, his eyes calm. Then he reached out, gently patting her head. His touch was soft, filled with trust. He whispered one word, "Safe." Lyra closed her eyes, fighting back tears. She knew then that her choice was clear. She could no longer believe her people's stories. She could only believe what she had seen with her own eyes. The human was not a beast. He was her friend. And she would protect that bond, no matter what the elders said. The days after the raid felt calm, but it was the kind of calm that hid a storm. The colony went on with its routines, repairing fences, gathering food, and tending to the young. Yet behind every whispered conversation was fear. Fear of the human. Who would save them? Fear of what the elders might do next. Lyra stayed close to him. She brought him water. She helped carry tools. She listened when he spoke in his strange tongue. Even if she did not understand every word, she understood his heart. For her, he was no beast. For her, he was a friend. But then, the disaster came. It began with a low rumble beneath the ground. At first, the villagers thought it was thunder. But the sound did not fade. It grew louder, deeper, until the earth itself seemed to tremble. Then came the alarms, sharp and shrill. "The reactor," one elder cried. "The old reactor is failing." The colony froze in horror. The reactor was their lifeline. It powered the pumps, the shields, the lights. Without it, the valley would fall into darkness. But more than that, if it exploded, it would destroy everything for miles. The colony, the people, even the mountains around them. Panic spread. Mothers pulled their children close. Warriors shouted in confusion. Elders argued, "We cannot stop it. It will end us all." Lyra clutched her mother's hand, her small body trembling. "What will happen?" she whispered. Her mother's face was pale. "We may not survive this, my little star." Then, through the noise and fear, the human stepped forward. He looked at the reactor tower, smoke rising from its vents. He looked at the panicked villagers. And then he looked at Lyra, her wide eyes filled with tears. In that moment, he made his choice. Without a word, he grabbed his pack, tightened the straps, and began walking toward the reactor. The elders shouted, "Stop him. He will only make it worse." Some warriors tried to block his path, but he pushed past them, strong and determined, his eyes fixed only on the burning tower. Lyra ran after him, her voice breaking. "Please, don't go. You will die." She grabbed his hand, her small fingers clutching tightly. Her violet eyes shimmered with fear. The human knelt. Lowering himself to her height, he placed his blood-stained hand gently on her head. His voice was soft, steady, safe, he said. His eyes carried warmth, but also finality. Lyra shook her head violently, tears streaming. "No, you can't. Please, you are my friend. If you go, I will lose you." But he only smiled. The same gentle smile he had given her the first time they met. He pulled her hand to his chest, over his heart. "Friend," he whispered. Then he turned and walked into the reactor building. The gates slammed shut behind him. The alarms screamed louder. Red lights flashed across the colony walls. Smoke poured into the air inside. He fought against the heat and the choking fumes. He climbed ladders, pulled levers, rewired circuits with his bare hands. Sparks flew, metal groaned. His body screamed with pain, but he did not stop. His mind thought only of the small child with violet eyes, and the people who no longer called him beast, but protector. Outside, Lyra stood at the gates, pounding her fists against the metal. "Please come back," she cried, her voice cracked, her body shaking. "Please, don't leave me." Her mother pulled her back, but Lyra would not stop screaming. Minutes felt like hours. The ground shook harder. A deep roar built inside the reactor. The villagers fell to their knees. Some prayed, some wept. Others whispered, "It is over. Nothing can stop it now." And then silence. The alarms cut off, the shaking stopped, the red lights dimmed. Only smoke drifted into the sky. The gates creaked open slowly. And out stumbled the human. His body was burned, his clothes torn, his face pale. Every step looked like it might be his last, but in his eyes, there was triumph. He had stopped the explosion. He had saved them all. Lyra broke free from her mother and ran to him. She threw her small arms around his waist, sobbing, "You came back. You saved us." The human swayed on his feet, his strength nearly gone. He gently placed his hand on her back, whispering weakly, "Safe." The villagers gathered in silence. For the first time, none called him a beast. None doubted his heart. Even the elders lowered their heads in shame. The human collapsed to his knees. Lyra held his face with her small hands. "Please, stay with me. Please don't leave me," she begged. Her tears fell on his cheeks. He smiled faintly, whispering one last word before his eyes closed. "Friend." The colony stood in awe. Their world had been saved, not by their warriors, not by their elders, but by the one they had feared most. Lyra held him tightly, refusing to let go, her voice trembling but clear. "You are not a beast. You are my friend, my protector, my hope." The reactor was silent now. Its deadly roar gone. Only thin trails of smoke rose into the evening sky. The colony had been saved, yet no one celebrated. All eyes were fixed on the human who lay still in the dust. Lyra clung to him, her small hands pressed against his chest, searching for breath. Her heart pounded in terror. "Please." She whispered again and again. "Please, don't leave me." The villagers stood frozen. Elders who once called him beast now stared in shame. Warriors who doubted his heart lowered their weapons. Mothers pulled their children close. But this time, not out of fear. Instead, they whispered, "He saved us. He saved all of us." The human stirred weakly. His chest rose and fell, shallow but steady. His eyes fluttered open, and he looked at Lyra. A faint smile curved his lips. Lyra gasped with relief, her violet eyes filled with tears. She pressed her forehead against his, whispering, "You came back. You did not leave me." The human's hand lifted slowly, trembling. He touched her cheek gently and whispered one word, soft but full of meaning, "Safe." The crowd watched in silence. None could deny it anymore. The beast they had feared was not a destroyer. He was a protector, a friend, a hero. An elder stepped forward, his voice unsteady. "All my life I told our people humans were monsters. Yet this one bled for us, risked his life for us. He is no beast." His voice broke. "He is more noble than we ever were." Another elder dropped her staff. Kneeling in the dirt, "We were blind. Our fear made us liars," she said. "The child trusted him first. And now we see she was right." Lyra looked up at them, her small voice rising clear and strong. "I told you, he is not a beast. He is my friend. He saved me. He saved my mother. He saved us all." She held his hand tightly. "You called him danger, but he is hope." Her words struck the crowd like thunder. For the first time, no one argued, no one doubted. Instead, heads bowed, voices whispered in agreement. Hope. The villagers carried the human to the healer's hall. Though their herbs could not heal wounds like his, they worked with care, washing his burns, wrapping his cuts. For the first time, they did not treat him as an enemy, but as one of their own. Lyra never left his side. She held his hand through the night, whispering stories to keep him awake. "When I was little, I feared the stars because I thought beasts lived there," she said softly. "But now I love the stars. Because they brought you to me." The human listened, his eyes tired, but his lips curved into the same gentle smile. Days passed, and slowly his strength returned. He could sit, then stand. Though his arms still bore scars, the villagers now greeted him openly, offering food, water, and thanks. Some even bowed their heads when he passed. A respect once thought impossible, the elders called a gathering. The whole colony stood together under the night sky. The stars burned bright above them. Lyra stood at the front, her small frame glowing with determination. An elder spoke. "For generations, we taught fear. We told lies to protect ourselves, but now we see the truth. Humans are not beasts. They can be more than allies. They can be family." Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling but proud. She looked at the human, then back at her people. "He risked everything for us. He asked for nothing in return. He called me friend, and I call him the same. He is proof that humans are not our end, but our beginning." The villagers murmured in agreement. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Others lifted their children high, telling them, "Remember this day. Remember who saved us." The human, though he could not understand every word, felt their hearts. He looked at Lyra, his friend, the little child who first dared to trust him. He placed his hand on his chest and whispered again, "Friend." Lyra's eyes shone as she repeated it loudly, her voice echoing across the valley. "Friend," the crowd repeated after her, voices rising like a wave. Friend, friend. For the first time, the colony saw the human not as an outsider, not as a beast, but as one of them. Later that night, as the fire burned low and the villagers celebrated quietly, Lyra sat beside him. Her head rested against his arm. Her voice soft and full of wonder. They all see the truth now. But I knew it first, she whispered. The human chuckled weakly, his hand brushing her hair. His voice low but steady. Hope. Lyra smiled through her tears. Yes, hope. She whispered back, and under the endless stars. A child who once thought humans were beasts now knew the truth. Humans were not monsters. They were protectors, friends, and sometimes the very hope that could save a world.